town to surrounding towns, and I'm so excited. There is a lot of work that has to be done. And if you are interested in being a part of this ministry opportunity, please see Samantha Strickland. She is at the back. To be part of the Blue Crew and jump in and take this opportunity to get to just minister to so many people, and there are a ton of ways, so you cannot be underqualified. All right, so at the end of service, if you want to, please see Samantha Strickland. All right, so I'm so excited. Now I'm kind of scared to walk around over here. Anyways, I'm so excited that I get to share with you guys. We are launching our newest series, and it is something that I'm very passionate about. We're calling it, What's Your Story? And so today, that's what I want you to think about as you hear parts of my story. Think about, what's your story? If somebody were to come up to you today, a complete stranger, and they say, what's your story? What would you tell them? Would it be a depressing, sad, bitter, angry story? Or do you have some love that you can share to somebody? Do you have a little piece of joy that you could share out of everything that you've gone through that could be part of your story? And so that's what I want to talk to you guys about. A lot of times I talk to y'all about my story, and so whenever I was getting ready for this week, I was kind of getting bummed because I was thinking, really? Are they going to want to hear anything else from me about my story? I mean, because the story hasn't changed. And a lot of you have heard a lot of parts of it. So I had some awesome counsel this week from my pastor, Howard, and he encouraged me to share a little bit about my story that maybe I don't focus on a lot, and it's myself, a little bit of my own part of the story. It's hard sometimes not to combine Chris in that story because he was with me for so long, and so he's a big part of my story. But there was stuff that happened before Chris, and so I kind of want to share a little bit about that with you. And then, of course, what God did in my own life that kind of set everything in motion for Chris and I. So I am a child of the Most High God. Amen. And I know that now. Unfortunately, I did not always know that. So as a child, like I said before, I am a child of a divorced home, and all of the fun stuff that comes along with that. I am also a child that witnessed abuse, physical, emotional. I am a child who has seen things, and then yet at the same time, I'm a child who has done things. Along my journey and through my story, I've been hurt, and yet at the same time, I've hurt others. Sometimes through this story, I didn't know that I was hurting others. And so growing up into my teenage years, I kept all that baggage, which we kind of covered in labels, and I wore those labels, and I went through life, and I started drinking at a really young age. Part of our story is that Chris was also an alcoholic, and, well, he had a drinking buddy to begin with, and I do not in any way glorify drinking, and that is something that I'm very passionate about. If there are any teenagers here who are being pressured into drinking the party lifestyle, I want to encourage you that I am here. I won't share the details or make it sound fun, because I saw and I lived firsthand those destructive things that alcohol caused, not only in my life, but in the lives of my family and my friends. And so I'm here. If you ever want to talk about it, if you're ever considering maybe taking your first drink ever, I'm here to tell you that it's not something that it's all cracked up to be. Might sound fun when your friends are talking about it, but there's some dark realities that go along with it. Anyway, so into my teenage years, I definitely drank, and of course that leads to other things. That drinking opens doors for you to let your inhibitions down to try other things. Makes you a little bit fearless, and on one hand, that's what I enjoyed, was that I was fearless. Because see, in my teenage years, I didn't know who I was. I hadn't heard that call yet from my father telling me that he had named me and that he had called me for a purpose. So, like I've told you before, I kind of bumped around like a chameleon, not sure who I was and not sure where I was supposed to be. That led to a lot of insecurities, and I went into my 20s just uncertain of what I was supposed to be doing. What was the point of life? Where was I going? I didn't have any focus. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with myself. And so me and Chris, we just got into a lot of trouble. I would sometimes tease him and tell him I was just better at it than he was, since he was the one who always got in trouble. But the reality was, I just hadn't met that God that loves me so much to show me how wrong I was and how confused I was. So, into my 20s, I was continuing on this path, and one day it all changed. Still kind of crazy how it happened, but Chris and I, we had gone through this cycle of breaking up, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together. I think it's part of being a teenager and not knowing who you really are. I don't know. Anyway, so my family at this time thought we were apart. They were thankful, and they thought that I was doing better. They didn't know all the realities of that, and I ended up getting pregnant. And my daughter is my saving grace. It wasn't until I got pregnant that for the very first time, I felt like I had a purpose. I felt like maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And maybe I'm supposed to be this being's mom. And then that's when reality set in. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can barely take care of myself. How am I going to take care of this little person? So things started to change for me, but not drastically and not radically. I was still continuing on living my lifestyle. I mean, of course, I stopped drinking and partying while I was pregnant. And then, of course, that's where the friction came in for Chris and I, because I no longer wanted him to have fun since I wasn't allowed to have any fun. So now he needed to sit with me. And, well, that just didn't happen. So that's that part of the story. But my part of the story is that at this time, I start realizing maybe there's more, and maybe there's something else. And so I have my daughter, and now I'm feeling like things, maybe they should be made right. And so I start telling Chris, maybe we should get married, and then things will be better, right? Well, I pretty much had to drag him to the altar, and I did, and I was happy for a little while, and so things are moving along. We're married, we have a daughter, and at this time, life looks good from the outside. We had really good jobs. We decided, hey, we're a family now, let's build a house. And so we do. You don't think about what comes along when you build a house. They want money every month for a mortgage payment. And so that was a little wake-up call. So we build a house, we're moving along through life, and we look really normal from the outside. The thing is, we were far from normal. While Chris still wanted to continue on being a 20-year-old party guy, I was starting to want to be a mom and a wife. And so then I start questioning things that are going on around us. Living here in Texas in the Bible Belt, I always knew there was a God. Would anybody ask you, even if you don't have a relationship with him, would you say, no, there is no God? No. So I knew there was a God, but he was a far out there kind of God. Somewhere out there, there was a God who, in my head, was just there to keep a record of all the mistakes that I had made, and I had made many. I was afraid of how many sheets were probably on that tally pad of all of my mistakes. This God seemed so far away. Why would he care about all the things that I had been through? Where was he when I was going through those things? Why didn't he help me make better choices? Why didn't he protect me from certain things? So this God seemed so far away. Everybody that I knew that had a relationship with him talked about him as if he was love. Yet I didn't know that. I didn't feel that. My idea of love was very different than what I was receiving from this God. Until one night. And one night I was so tired of Chris and his chaos, and I just kept thinking, if God would fix him, I wouldn't have any problems, because I'm not a problem, and I don't have any. So one night I put my daughter to bed, and I was sitting outside, and I just was starting to get pretty angry at this God who people were talking about, yet he wasn't showing up for me. And I know that I messed up, but did I really mess up enough that you're not going to show up for me? I didn't get it. And I didn't know enough, so I wasn't going to ask people questions because I didn't know anything, so what would I really ask them? Because then I'd look kind of dumb that I didn't know, so that caused a whole bunch of issues all in itself. So in this particular night, I was sitting outside, and I was angry. And I remember sitting outside yelling to this God, "Where are you? And who are you? And if you're real, I'm tired of this. And it's time that you show yourself to me." And I would love to say there was like some big boom in the sky and like all of this crazy stuff happened, but it didn't. But he did put something inside of me that night that started drawing me to him. That night, when I was angry and yelling at him, I remember looking up to the sky, and it was so black, and it looked so empty, and I was like, see? It's empty just like my life is empty. And I was just about to walk inside when the last time I looked up, I saw stars. For the first time in Dallas in a really long time, I saw stars. Something so tiny caught my attention in my anger as I was about to walk inside. And I stopped. And I thought, if he was willing to put all those tiny stars, what would he be willing to do for me? And so that's what he put in me, and that's when I started recklessly pursuing him. I came to this church. We drove from Dallas to this church because my aunt brought me here, and she had taken me to some kind of sketchy churches for a little while down in Deep Ellum. So when she said that I'm not kidding. When she said, "You've got to check out this church in Canton," I was like, oh no, I'm not going anywhere where I might know somebody, especially the places you think are cool. So I am talking about my Aunt Margarita for all of y'all who know her. Anyways, so she says, no, this place is so different. And I'm thinking, I know your idea of different, but I came and I checked it out. And it was the coolest thing ever. When I walked in the door, at first, when I pulled in the parking lot, I almost changed my mind. Because you see, I had a lot of shame and guilt that I wasn't ready for anybody to see yet. But I came through the door, and it just fell off. Like it was just gone. And when I came in, at this point, I couldn't drag Chris here yet, and so I sat in the back by myself. And I remember sitting there, hearing Todd speak, and thinking, she told him everything that I have going on, and really starting to panic because this preacher guy, he knows all of my junk. And so all of a sudden, one of those lights felt like it was just like spotlighting on me. And I was so nervous because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, if he knows, how many other people here know that I am a wreck? How many other people know that I am a mess? Well, the reality now is that, of course, he was just given the message that God had put on his heart, and the Holy Spirit was drawing me in to show me there is no reason to carry that shame, and there is no reason to carry on that guilt. You are a child of the Most High God, and that is when God started revealing to me that I did have purpose, that I did have value, and that I do have worth. I remember I couldn't wait till that next Sunday and the next Sunday. And then I started getting a little braver, thinking, well, I might check out this whole Wednesday thing. And so then, of course, we're living in Dallas and we're driving here a lot. And so due to other chaos in our story, we ended up moving down here. And I was so excited that I was going to get to be at this place all the time. And so I started coming here more and more. And never once did I feel that shame. Never once did I feel like I was just unforgiven. Like I felt like this place was different and I just wanted to be here all the time. It was during that time that God revealed to me that He is love. He doesn't have a record of all my wrongs. He wasn't keeping a score. The only thing He was wanting was to draw me to Him. He was never marking every time that I messed up. He was never going to throw it back in my face the way that I had done all the times that somebody had hurt me. Instead, He wanted to embrace me. He wanted to show me the truth. The truth is that He loves me. He wanted to show me who I am in Him. And so that's the part of my story that I love to share. I wasn't who I am now. I did come from somewhere. And that's the whole point of a story. It moves forward. It doesn't move backwards. And so I love being able to tell people, yeah, I was over here and I was really messed up. Yet God showed me who I can be and who He wants me to be and who He named me to be. And so with that, I can move forward and I can be who He created me to be. In the very beginning, it was hard for me to share my story with anyone because it was really messed up. Chris didn't have a problem sharing, and it was through him that I recognized that's how God gets that glory. That's how other people see His love. That's how other people will get to experience His truth, is by me sharing my story with you. It's by you sharing your story with someone else. What's your story? Have you ever thought about what parts you want to share? Do you sit here Sunday after Sunday? Do you come in and you think, I don't want anybody to know because I'm such a mess? That's where He takes your mess and He makes that your message. All of us are qualified by Him, through Him, to share our stories. That's what He gives it to us for. Sometimes there's parts that are hard to talk about. You don't ever know who is beside you that needs that one little piece. You see, a really great guy that I know once said that the devil is a punk.
That's right. That's right.
So if that devil is a punk, guess what he's going to whisper to you? That your story isn't worth it. He's going to try and tell you that that story isn't good enough. Or you know what? He might even tell you, what does your story really matter? You're just one person. He might try to tell you that because your story is going to make a greater impact than you could have ever imagined. You see, that punk, he doesn't want you to tell the truth because he knows that once you start to glorify the one who named you, once you start to tell the stories of how God has taken you out of your mess and He has redeemed you, he knows that he's in trouble then. And so that is why now I love to share my story. Yeah, it's not pretty, and yeah, I'm still a work in progress, but you know what? That's okay. Because today, I can live by the words that God loves me. And I hang on to those words as truth. Because if God loves me, then how could He ever be against me? How could anything stand in my way if the one who named me has loved me through it all? Through the good, the bad, the ugly. He loves me and He knows my story. He knows where my story is going. And you know what? He doesn't care because He named me and He loves me. So now, today, I don't know where my story is going. I don't know what's going to happen next. I never thought that I was going to be in this place. But at this point, I'm okay with that because God's will is whatever. And I'm ready just to say, God, I don't know what today has in store for me, but whatever you say, I'm going to follow you wherever you take me, and I'm going to share my story with whoever needs to have it shared with. So there comes a time that somebody's going to ask you, what's your story? Over the next few weeks, I'm really excited because a lot of my family is going to be sharing their stories with you. And I can't wait for you to hear some of these stories. And the great part about it is that you're going to get to hear some stuff that maybe you might relate to in a story. Maybe you might feel like that's part of your story. And then you can stop being afraid to share your story. Sometimes a story doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out story. Sometimes it can just be this little piece, like a teenage pregnancy, an unmarried mother. Who else is sitting in the room that needs to know, you know what, you're okay, and you're going to make it because you are named by the God who loves you. Maybe there's somebody in here who is struggling with alcoholism, but that's okay because I can share with you that it's okay. You are redeemed. You are a child of the Most High God. What little piece of your story you might have to share might bring somebody out of that hopelessness. Don't you want to take part in that? Don't you want to help somebody? And if you're sitting here and you're thinking, my story isn't one that needs to be shared quite yet. Maybe you're the one that needs to hear the story. Well, then it's time to not be afraid, to come forward and ask somebody, will you share your story with me? This is what I'm struggling in. And maybe we can find somebody here that's willing to give you hope, that's willing to share their story with you, so that you don't have to sit in that hopelessness anymore. But you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort, outside of what you know, to move forward, to move past it. So today I want to just tell you guys that I am so honored that I got to share my story with you, the good, the bad, the ugly, and anything that I didn't mean to say maybe. And I'm so thankful that you listened today. I want to encourage you that there are going to be people up here today that want to hear your story, that want to hear your struggle. And it's going to be through you not being afraid to come forward to share what you need to share and ask for prayer. Because when we start to come together and we start to pray for each other, the move of God is going to happen so big in this place that you can't contain your story. You'll want to share that with everybody that you come across because the glory will go to the one who named you. So today, please, let today be a day that you just step out and share your story. Hey, maybe on Twitter we can put #ShareMyStory. Wouldn't that be cool? I've been seeing all this hashtag stuff. Sorry, sidetrack. Today is the day that we can move forward and we can share our stories and we can help each other here. It is by no accident that you are here in this place today, and I believe in that with all of my heart. So today you have the opportunity that you're going to get to share something that's going to minister to somebody else. Over the next few weeks, bring your friends because they're going to get to hear stories of other people and other struggles and other truths and realities. And it's going to be so exciting over the next few weeks, the different things that we get to hear, and I am so thankful that I get to take part in something like that. Aren't you? Thank you, guys.
She said